What's going on, guys, and welcome on to another review. And today, as you can tell, we are back at Branston's over at the Yamaha side, taking out the MT09 for 2024. Now, I thought I would take out the standard MT09 before I take out the SP later on, so I don't get tainted by the extra goodies that the SP has. We've actually got a fair few extra tweaks and new parts for 2024, so we will cover off those later on in the video. What do you guys think about these colours on the rims? Me personally, I'm not a massive fan of this cyan blue, but each to their own. Let's start off at the heart of this bike then. This has the Cross Plane 3 engine, 890cc, I believe it's 93 newton of torque at 117 brake horsepower. Let's go and find out what this thing's like, because I've ridden the MT09 before and it's fun. It is fun. This is, I'm going to put it out there, kind of the best platform for your Wednesday night bike ride or your Sunday ride. We do have an aftermarket exhaust on back there, so it does sound just a little bit better as well. Let's get through some of the, what I would call the boring kind of stats and figures around this bike, so we can get on and truly see what makes this bike just so good. Looking at the suspension then at the front, we do have fully adjustable upside down 41mm forks, and at the rear we have adjustability as well. And the brakes, we've got dual 298mm at the front and then a single 245 at the rear. As with any bike, I'm going to be a little bit on the heavier side. I'm 115 kilos and I'm 6'1", so this bike is not going to be set up for me from the factory. But luckily it is fully adjustable, as I mentioned, so anyone that gets any bike, I highly recommend you taking it to professional and getting it set up for you and your type of riding. But what I can tell you from just that short little twisty section is there's absolutely nothing wrong with the suspension at the minute, and the brakes are pretty good. The handling and flickability on this is, it feels super light, but also it just drops as well. That's going to be aided in the latest version of the S23 tyres, the S23M. But also talking about the flickability, you're not going to get that flick without this bike being light. This thing comes in at 193 kilos wet, and if you know bikes nowadays, that's pretty light. My BMW GSA is like 280 kilos. So yeah, around town, going around any potholes or any traffic or any personnel walking in the road, this thing you can just drop it in and move out of the way super easy. Being 6'1", I am a big lad, and I fit this bike actually quite nicely still. The tank is quite curved at the top, but it doesn't impede on my legs. I've been on some bikes where the tank has got a groove for your legs, but being bigger, my legs are always in above that line. Well, actually, I can tell you right now, I've got more than enough space for my legs to manoeuvre around. I don't feel cramped on this bike. It feels like a nice fit. The handlebars, there are two different positions you can have. Right now they're in a really comfortable position, so I wouldn't bother changing them. Also the footrests, the foot pegs are adjustable as well, so you can actually start to fine-tune this bike as soon as you get it without really buying anything extra. We've got a fairly conservative seat height as well, I'd say of 825mm, and being 6'1", I've got both feet flat on the floor when I am stationary. So even a shorter rider, I honestly don't think is going to have any problems with this bike. When you get on the throttle on this, actually, like I said, it does have the exhaust, but also there's just the growl that comes through it, and that is aided by these little vents here. Hopefully you can see them on the camera, and they're like air vents, and they're just designed to pass on that extra noise to the rider. And I can tell you what, it sounds bloody lovely. Like I say, and this bike can be an absolute weapon if you want it to, and that is where the heart of the MTs come from. This and the MT10 are fantastic bikes. I love riding them. As you can tell, I'm going to say there's no screen. There's like a little bit of a fancy screen that's just more for looks than anything. There is no wind protection. So I've got a nice clean air bubble hitting me. But yeah, it does hit you. But there is no strange buffeting or anything on the helmet. Moving over to the electronics of the bike then. So this has got 5 different rider modes. Rain, Street, Sport, and then customizable 1 and 2. Or custom? Let's have a look. Custom 1 and 2, customizable. And we put it into rain mode, and you can tell the difference in the throttle response. It's still smooth, but it almost feels like there's hardly any power there at that first kind of initial pickup, which is exactly what you want, let's face it. And then you whack it in sport, and as soon as you twist that throttle, we start going. We start having some fun. Me personally, if I owned this bike, I wouldn't need custom 1 and custom 2. I would 98% of the time run it in custom 1, and I'd set all the parameters to how I'd want it, and then if it was raining, I'd just put it into rain. For 2024, we've actually got a new headlight design. Again, a little bit different. Yamaha, over the last few years with their MT09 and the MT10, have definitely gone different for their headlights. Not 100% sure I'm a massive fan of them, but again, each to their own. Also, like I said, with my MT10 that I used to own, when you're on the bike, you can't see the front, so it doesn't matter how ugly it is. It's how it makes you feel when you're riding it. Along with that new headlight, we've also got a new rear tail light, and I just think it really sleeks up that rear section. Keeping on the themes of the lights, going over to the indicators, we've got a few different functions now. With the indicator arrows left and right, you've got a soft touch, which it will flash the indicator left or right 3 times. So if you're going to change lane, or if you then push it fully in, it will then keep it on. Once you have fully pressed it, we do have auto cancelling indicators, and they're going to cancel once the bike has travelled over 150 meters and over 15 seconds. This bike is just easy to ride. Problem is, you start twisting it and it starts goading you. It starts wanting you to go a little bit faster and have a little bit more fun. I believe we've got a new TFT as well for 2024, and this has got phone connectivity via the Yamaha, one of their apps. They got a few, and what this does, not only gives you the ability to do your music, we've also got turn-by-turn navigation, but more importantly, this has got actual full map navigation, which I love seeing on a bike. It just means that you don't necessarily have to have your phone on your handlebar or a sat-nav if you want to do any touring. Just connect your phone up, leave it in the pocket, and there you go. Bish bash bosh, you've got your maps. Another thing that you might have heard is the quick shifter. This has now got a Gen 3 quick shifter, and what that means is it's got its usual up and down shifter capabilities as you would expect to any quick shifter. But what Yamaha have done is this has now got another setting where you can be accelerating and you can downshift, and you can be decelerating or just not on the throttle at all, and you can upshift. So you can shift in the opposite directions. So I'm in second gear at the minute, I'm on the throttle, off the throttle, and there you go, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Pretty cool. And again, I'm in sixth, I'm accelerating, down a fifth, down a fourth, down a third, all while continuously on the throttle. I don't recommend doing it whilst you're accelerating hard, because that front end might suddenly come up. Okay, well, I'm an old man and I can't go for more than half an hour without getting off for a little pit stop. So you know what? Let's have a little walk around the bike. This here is that fly screen, I suppose you could call it, and that is the new front end. These lights here are the daytime running lights, and then in this section here, that is going to be our nighttime and our high beam as well. Again, I'm just not 100% sure on the front end of the MT09. Like I said, it has been that kind of way for the last few years. Some other new styling features then. The tank, it's got a reshaped redesign. Like I said, these here are those little kind of outlets for the noise. And then that rear section with the new rear tail light. I think get yourself a tail tidy on there and it's going to really sleeken up this back end. And then we've got this Acracan. Whee! It definitely does sound the part. The screen has got a few different themes as well. Use the back and the home button there, and then this kind of jog dial to move it up and down and enter. There you go, there's the theme. Theme 1 to 4, and you get a little preview. And then when you're happy with whatever you want, just push in on the thumb and there you go, change it straight away. Previous one just told you what mode you're in. This one told you sport at the bottom, and then all the levels, what you've got. So you've got power, traction control, slide control, and your lift. Nice to see as well, we do actually have a Yamaha fitted USB charger. The cluster on the left hand side is new as well. Almost got as many buttons as the Honda MT-1100. As I said, soft touch indicators, and you've got your back button and your jog dial. And then at the top here, you've got the cruise control. It has a new cruise control for 2024, and I believe it goes down to 24, 25 miles per hour in 3rd gear. Now, previously, same with the MT-10, is it would go down, so you'd have to be in 4th gear to be able to activate the cruise control, which for me was always a problem, especially when there's so many 20 and 30 mile an hour zones. Being 4th gear, 30 miles an hour, a little bit chuggy. For me, BMW had it best. I think it was the M1000 XR. I think I got that down to like 18, 19 miles an hour. So in a 20 mile an hour zone, you'd be perfectly fine. It would be awesome to see Yamaha get it down that little bit further. As I mentioned when I was talking about the different modes, that you can adjust the power, the slide control, the lift, etc. Obviously the MT09 has a 6-axis IMU to make all of that possible. Now you may be thinking, how much is all this going to set you back? Well, for 2024, the MT09 is £10,106. And this is obviously with the gears, and this is your standard manual gearbox. I was on the Yamaha's website last night checking out the information for this bike, and obviously they had this bike on there, but they also had a MT09Y AMT. Now, as far as I'm aware, that is the same as Honda's DCT. BMW have come out with a version as well. So basically it gets rid of the clutch lever, and it's an automatic bike where you normally have your thumb and finger adjustment, so you can still change the gears, but in essence it is an automatic bike. I've not yet seen one, I've not been on one from Yamaha for the MT range, but it'd be cool to test it if that is actually what it says. Question then, for you out there, would you go for the standard manual MT09, or would you go for this DCT AMT variant? And the price difference then between the manual and the AMT will be 10,656. So reality, 500 quid. It's cheaper than some of the other bikes. So Honda, I believe, is £1,000 difference between the manual and the DCT. And lastly then, looking at the colours, obviously this is the cyan grey. I think I might have said cyan blue at the start, but cyan grey, but with the light blue wheels. We've got the Icon blue or the Tech black. All three of those colours are going to be exactly the same price. So let me know in the comments box below, which colour are you picking? Grey, blue or black? That's enough waffling off the bike. Let's jump back on it. I like the fact that Yamaha have done this kind of more basic version, and then if you want to spend the extra $1, they've got the SP. Obviously that's got a different colour scheme, it's got Öhlins, and it's also got Brembo calipers or extra braking power. Whereas sometimes there's manufacturers out there that they only do the best of the best, and it bumps up the price. When you're starting to talk 20, 25, 27 grand sometimes on some of these newer bikes, it's a lot of money. And you absolutely do not need to buy the SP. This bike here is more than enough fun, and it gives you everything you want anyway. Like I said, suspension, get it set up properly, and then you probably wouldn't even notice the difference between your properly tuned suspension and the Öhlins. Brakes, there's always things you can do at a cheaper end. You can get better pads, you can get some steel braided lines. That's what I done for the MT-10, and it completely changed the braking power. You can get your comfort seat, you can still put on some luggage on this, and you can get a taller screen. So if you wanted something that you could do some touring once a year, and then for the rest of the time absolutely throw it around, this is perfect. I'm actually a big fan of some of the changes they've made for 2024. Again though, still not massively sold on the front end. But honestly, when this bike handles as good as it does. The front end comes up when you want it to. It sounds delicious. The front end can be excused, is what I'm saying. The shifter is so good on this. I always remember back in the day when Zoe had just passed her test, she was looking at what bike. She got the KTM 390 Duke. As a beginner, that's what she wanted. She wanted something manageable and to be able to kind of develop her skills right at the start. Soon after, she swapped it and she went for an MT-07. Now, initially, I'd mentioned about this, the MT-09, and to be honest, this kind of bike, with the amount of power it does have, and how silly you can be on it, it scared her. In the sense, she just didn't even want to take it out. So she got the MT-07. And I reckon, if we were to ask her right now, she'd say she regrets getting the MT-07 instead of going for something like this, because she'd done her developing stage with the 390, that she wouldn't need to then go to the MT-07 and then within another year or two then change again. Like, this could have been a bike that she'd be able to keep for years and keep it in rain mode at the start if she wanted, and then progress, go to street, then go to sport. Whereas the MT-07 as a platform, it just doesn't excite her anymore. She doesn't want to take it out. So what I'm saying is, even if you are a newer rider, don't be afraid to come and check out the MT-09. And obviously, if you're in the Somerset area, head over to Branson's and tell them that you saw my video. I don't get paid anything. It's just nice. Nice when someone says, oh yeah, I popped in because of your video. Or when I go and see my man in there, David, or Ryan for the Yamaha, and they tell me that someone popped in because of what they saw on this channel. It's just a nice little feeling. I actually know one of the subscribers, another David, he actually bought the Honda CBR 650R after watching our demo ride. Yeah, I mean, I know I said the brakes are okay, but actually they're pretty good. 2 fingers and it'll have you stopped. Talking about stopping, and back to all the different lights I mentioned, all the upgrades. This has got emergency brake as well, so if you do slam on the brakes, it's going to flash your hazards until you basically you stop doing your emergency stop. But as aggressive as this thing can be, you're in a little village, you're doing 20, 30 miles an hour, it's easy. The throttle is smooth. Even in sport mode, the throttle isn't snatchy, like that's on and off. And there's barely any movement. Some of the bikes out there are like this, like, but no, not this one. Well guys, if you've enjoyed this video, first of all, give it a thumbs up, but more importantly, subscribe to the channel. We have got videos coming out weekly. And until the next one, get out there, enjoy the summer whilst it's still here, and ride safe.